Hi, everyone. We're so grateful to be here.
We need to start because we just came from the most bucket list experience you could possibly have.
You're gonna tell them what?
Well, I'm gonna say just in case Garrett turns green and ends up like.
Let me just say this. My world right now is actually spinning and swirling. Does anyone know what this is? It looks like a blue envelope. Do you know what this is? It says motion sickness bag. I took this from the cockpit and kept it with me. There's something here in Las Vegas called Sky Combat Ace. You've seen the movie Top Gun? Yeah, I just lived it like an hour ago. They put you in a plane, they put you in separate cockpits, and these planes fly side by side, like literally this far away from each other, and then just do all these crazy aerials and acrobatics. And then the worst part of all, they give you the controls, and they have these like actual gunmen like dogfight simulators where we're trying to like shoot each other down. You're actually like flying the plane. It's got a trigger, and it's almost like laser tag where if I hit her plane, smoke starts coming out of it, and then it spins and swirls and like nosedives.
Well, and then they finish with 8 Gs, and you just pass out.
Yeah, that was the final test of this experience was how many Gs can you experience. At about between 1 and 2 is when I was gone immediately.
But I want to tell a little of the story of how we ended up doing that this morning. Garrett, I think everybody has that teacher that just changed their life. Garrett had a teacher named Mr. Botita in 3rd grade at Legacy Elementary in Utah. And it just so happens that he's still teaching in the exact same classroom today.
30 years later.
Yeah, 32 years later. And Garrett has always just talked so highly of this man, wanted to give back to him for years and years. And we're going to chat more about this in our presentation, but we recently created a bucket list app where you can fill out your bucket list. Garrett asked Mr. Botita to fill out his bucket list. And we showed up in Utah 2 days ago to his classroom. Garrett hadn't been there in 30 years.
So me and this teacher, we had not seen each other in 30 years. But he kept close tabs on us on our YouTube channel and our Instagram. So he was very aware of like me and my family and our adventures. And he would often invite me like, I hope someday you come back and see me. And I just wanted it to be big and special and bucket list. And so it was just 2 days ago?
2 days ago.
2 days ago, I lied to him. The principal. The principal was like my side accomplice to scheme this together. And the principal told him that he's being awarded like a good teacher award and that the local news is going to be there. And because I needed to get cameras into the classroom without him being suspicious. So a whole news crew goes into his classroom to film him for like Teacher of the Year award. He's a great teacher, but he did not win the award. And so then when they gave me the signal, I walk into his classroom, and I was waiting for him to be like, oh my gosh, like, Garrett, it's you're here. Instead, he's like, oh no, Garrett, are you going to be here very long? I've got the news here with me. And he was all like cordial about it, and I was like, sorry, buddy. These news cameras, they're here for me. and then I had the very special opportunity to say, but there is somebody I want you to meet. And I opened the door, and my wife and kids walked in, and he immediately just started weeping to see, me as a 3rd grade teacher, and now here I am back with my own kids, elementary school age, and my wife. And anyways, very, very special moment, and that led to us meeting with his classroom. I got to tell his class, his students, the impact he had on my life, and so much of how he inspired me to dream big led to this bucket list life that we're capable of living now. And then together as a classroom, we got to fill out Mr. Botita, his own bucket list. And because he had downloaded our bucket list app and filled out, I knew a few of the things that were already on his bucket list, one of which was experience a fighter jet. Careful what you wish for. There's some magic to a bucket list, and it might just come true. So we flew him from Utah to Las Vegas, and this morning he and I, Well, we threw up a bunch, that's for sure. And we had the time of our lives. It was a unforgettable. I'm grateful that I can be here standing upright, because for the last hour, I was literally like face down on the floor waiting for the world to stop spinning so that I could come here.
I almost gave this presentation alone.
And be here with you wonderful people. So, should we get started?
Yeah, that's
Wait,
where we
but
came from.
as we kick things off, I want to know from some of you in the audience, who has something major that is on your bucket list? Either a place to go or an experience you wish to have. Careful, because as you voice this, there's magic to it, and it might just come true.
I've always wanted to go to space.
Wow. Go big.
Just from the get-go, he wants to go to space. Well done. I'm with you on that. Well, I don't know what I can handle anymore. Geez, I'm telling you, 2 Gs and I passed out, so I might be out for space, but epic. Who else? You had your hand up.
I also want to go to space with Sia. I just had a project at NASA. You probably should all go to space if given the chance, but closer to home, I want to go back to Antarctica.
Okay.
I imagine you've been.
Oh, Antarctica. Honestly, sometimes Antarctica feels like space. Like, I've never been to space, but I'm like, I imagine this is what it feels like to be on the moon. Just you're feeling like no other human has ever been there before. Antarctica. Amazing, amazing place. I'm curious. Okay, let's have a scenario where everyone here had the chance to go to space. You know, it's a new thing, new frontier, kind of dangerous. Who, by raising a hand, would choose to stay safely on Earth and not go to space? Yeah, I think it's about 50-50.
Maybe.
Isn't that interesting? If given the chance to go
Trip
to space?
You guys are going to stay put.
Tell me your answer. Would you go realistically?
Yeah, I would go to space.
You would go to space?
For sure.
I thought we had this conversation. You said no.
No, we talked about like living in like, you know, like
Oh, you leave and go to Mars.
inhabiting another planet.
Okay, so
No
you
one-
want to go to space, don't want to. Yeah. I'm 50-50. I'm a yes man, so 50-50 means yes. But I'd be nervous.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on their bucket list? Yeah. Iceland.
Ooh.
Also like another planet.
Why does everyone want to avoid the sun on your bucket list? No warm locations on anyone's bucket list?
What about these three? Well, Africa back there.
Yes, well, great choice.
Dorothy, Manila, Cali, what's on your bucket list? Egypt. That's on the family.
I've not yet been to Egypt. All right, well, I'll get. We're really grateful to be here, and the topic that they shared with us is how to stay relevant on social media, and it immediately spoke to our hearts, and we're very excited to share with you what we've prepared. Should we start with the video, and then get into our introduction?
Let's start with the video.
Okay, yeah, here's a brief video that we actually created when Jessica came out with her book together with National Geographic.
Where we are, I don't know where we are, but it will be okay.
You doing okay?
Yeah,
What's been the hardest part of finishing this book?
picking this cover photo.
Last week, we've been getting more and more ready.
Hopefully continue onward until we can make it all the way around the entire world.
So a little bit of background on how we got to what you just saw. It's been 10 years since we started the Bucketlist family. 10 years. That blows my mind. Okay, a little bit of G family history. We got married in 2009 in Utah. We met in Vladivostok, Russia. Has anybody been to Vladivostok, Russia? You never need to go to Vladivostok, Russia. Never.
I think you should go. If you want to go visit Iceland, Antarctica, the moon, Vladivostok fits into that category for sure. Yeah.
Go.
Old, desolate.
We were at BYU in Utah. Garrett played soccer over there. And while we were there, Garrett started a company called Scan that he created with his college buddies. There were 3 of them, and it was just a fun side hustle school project. Like it was supposed to be nothing.
Yeah, again, careful what you wish for. I remember when we created this iPhone app, we had set for ourselves 3 goals. We wanted to somehow, some way make $5,000. We thought it'd be really cool to get 1 million downloads. And clearly the 3rd goal was not that important.
You don't remember it.
Because I do not remember it. But flash forward, and what happened next on this journey?
You moved to San Francisco. You got funded.
We did get funded. The app started getting more and more downloads. We went on that TV show Shark Tank, and they made fun of me for not taking it serious enough. They said, "You're wearing sandals." Clearly not much has changed. And I remember pitching the Sharks and just hoping so badly that we got a deal. And one by one, they turned me down. Not a single shark took my offer, and I came out of the Shark Tank with no deal. I was pretty heartbroken, but the business was not over yet. We did end up raising money from Google and Facebook and others, and then 3 years later, we sold that small app, not for $5,000, but Snapchat ended up purchasing it for $54 million. And that brought us to...
Thank you. That was an interesting time in our lives. I think we were 26, 27 years old, and to have that much money brought into your life, and to be at a point when someone asked you, what would you do if you won the lottery, and to actually kind of be there, it was a very fascinating mental exercise to say, okay, what doesn't matter? Like, if I don't have to work, what is truly important in life? And having those conversations between each other, that's where, we first moved out to Venice Beach, which is where Snapchat is. The plan was to be there for a little bit. And very quickly, while Garrett was working for Snapchat, he realized it was not a good fit. And he decided to leave. In so doing, I had kind of followed him to San Francisco and to Utah. I'd just kind of been following his career around. And he had said, you choose what happens next. And I was the one that said, I want to do a little bit of traveling. And if you know anything about our dynamic, it's that I am queen of moderation and Garrett is the king of extreme. He reaches for the stars and I make sure we land safely in the atmosphere. So that little bit of traveling is what sparked the Bucketlist family.
It was a really... Like right now, even as I'm hearing this, I'm like, wow, this was a cool, crazy story. But the memories that are coming back to me are like those real conversations we had. Like, put the kids to bed in our living room. Like, what are we going to do with our life? What is next? And it was just a really real conversation between who we consider like 2 regular people. And I mean, it was just a very special time. Because again, there's kind of that lofty question of what would you do if you won the lottery? What would you do if you had $1 million? Like, we were in that situation of like, really, like, what would we do? And it's cool because it shows where the priorities lie in your life. And I'll just say, the way that Jessica and I grew up, the way that we were raised, for both of us, even if we would joke about, and the funny thing is, we didn't even joke about like going and buying like a fancy house or new cars or a boat. Like, that wasn't on either of our radar. And so when you suggested, let's do a little bit of traveling, immediately that like felt right in my heart. And as we had that conversation, what it led to was, clearly we're young and we don't really know what we want to do next in our life, perhaps a little bit of traveling will open up our eyes and our minds to the world so that we can help make that decision in a better way and hopefully find a path for us and our family that does feel right.
That was a huge part of why we decided to travel. Like you said, we were so young and our kids were young. We just had the older two at the time. And the idea of settling down when we just felt we knew nothing about life was super overwhelming. So, and part of it was pushing off any big kid decisions and like, let's do a little bit of traveling, then we'll come back. And for us, like the money that had come in, you know, it split a bunch of founders and investors and stuff. So the money that we had was enough to be comfortable, but not to like kick up our feet and just chill the rest of your life. And we had to be smart with it. So what we did is we ended up selling everything we had. We didn't own a home.
And I remember, at least for me, and the way that my brain works, I wanted it to be almost like an entrepreneurial challenge. This money had come quickly into our lives, and unfortunately, I had enough people in my own life or my own family that had money quickly come in and money quickly go. And I didn't want that to be the case for us. And so I made the challenge between me and Jessica of let's not touch this money that has come into our life. Let's put it into safe savings and investments, but let's not touch it, especially for these worldly travels. So we did this yard sale. We made
about $45,000 from selling our cars. You'll see these pictures of Garrett's Nike shirts and some furniture.
The cars made us, of the 45,000, the cars made us like 44,000, and the furniture and the clothes made us about 1,000. But that was enough for us to like start our journey around the world.
It was going to be about 4 months of travel. We left in September and we were coming back in December with the thought, we'll come back, and then we'll get back to life. We'll buy a house, we'll pull money from our nest egg and, you know, move on with things.
In Jessica's mind, this felt more like a vacation.
He had other plans.
For me, I'm like, anyone seen The Wild Thornberrys? It's an old cartoon. I was like, we're going Thornberry mode. And I'm going to document this. But at that level, let's see, 2015, the word social media influencer did not exist. Social media was still this very beautiful young thing that you simply created content to share with your family and friends, and that was about
it was the mommy blogger era, if you remember that, when Pinterest was pretty big and just mom blogs. And Garrett, to his credit, again, I'm going on a family vacation. Garrett is starting a new enterprise. And Garrett came to a trade show very much like this called Outdoor Retailer. And Garrett went booth to booth to booth. He talked to Thule, he talked to Teva, he talked to all of these companies, he talked to Pelican and said, hey, would you be up for giving me some of your luggage or some of your product for free, and I'll take cool pictures of it around the world.
I asked for money. No one wanted to pay me. So then I resorted to how about free product? Yeah. And I came home with like a camera, some sandals, some Pelican luggage, shout out Pelican. And then I came home with this giant foldable like canoe kayak thing. And I was like, it was so big and so heavy and so inconvenient. I was like, Jess, look what I got. And I was so proud of it. And she's like, there's no way we're taking that with us around the world. I was like, we got it. They gave it to me for free. I got to take it around the world and we got to take photos.
We went to one country with that. And then immediately I gave it to my brother-in-law. Take the kayak.
So that was the beginning of our journey. And I would pause for a second and say, along the topic of social media, if you're a brand and staying relevant, thus far in this stage of our experience, we had learned two things. One was, why are you doing what you're doing? And for us, the answer was, we want to go on this experience together as a family, and I want to document it for our own family journal, just family home videos. That was my goal. I saw potential of like working with brands and hopefully making money, but the internet wasn't quite there yet, but I could see the potential of where it was going. And so we created an Instagram and a YouTube. And that would be the second thing that I would say we learned at that stage, is Instagram and YouTube weren't really used for that yet. And like Jessica said, it was more the era of like the mommy blogger phase. And so that's been a big lesson for us throughout this entire process. And if we're a brand in order to stay relevant, it's very important to meet your audience where they are. Are they on TikTok? Are they on Snapchat? Are they still stuck with like the mommy blogs? Being able to know like where your audience, where your demographic is, and find them there is an important part. And so it's kind of that secret sauce, right? Of start something for the right reason, know why you're starting it, and then go find your audience where they are. And so that's when we created the Bucketlist family. I actually found my notes from my journal when I was coming up with a bunch of different names, and it had like the passport parents, a lot of really, really bad ones, and then about a third of the way down it said the Bucketlist family. It made me so happy to see that in my journal.
This was us on our floor right before we left. Our kids were so young. When I look back at that, I'm like, we were insane.
If you're gonna do a trip around the world, don't start at that age.
Don't start at 1 and 3 years old.
Our first stop, oh my goodness, our first stop was to the island nation of Tonga. Has anyone here, by raise of hand, been to Tonga? All right. By the end of this, I'm going to give you one very big, like the size of a whale, reason to go to Tonga. So stay tuned. But that was our first country we went to, and just incredible photo, right? But then if we go, let's see. At this stage of our travels, this is what our Instagram looked like. And I would say as like, I'm the photographer and videographer in our family, and it was my goal to be like one of the speakers here, Chris Burkard, and just create these like epic, postcard-worthy photos.
Garrett's background was in design. He's a designer, but he wasn't necessarily a photographer. It was a new skill for him.
And at the time, like when Pinterest was, in all its glory, and same with Instagram, like that was kind of the challenge, was who could get the most perfect photo. AI's broken all of that now. Who could take the most perfect photo, share it to Instagram, and that's gonna get the most likes. So that's what I was trying until we visited Thailand. And I remember when we were in Thailand, we were running, it was a train or a flight? It was a flight.
We were going to a flight, we were super, super late, and we were so sweaty, it was so hot, we had babies crying, it was mayhem. And we ended up posting this photo.
And I remember in the caption, we let people know like, oh gosh, like it's not all postcards on family travel. Let us tell you about our terrible, hellish day of missing this flight and running through, oh my gosh, just the most humid airport on the planet. And it was crazy to me, because when I shared this photo on Instagram, I remember being like, man, this is the least of all my photos thus far. Nobody's gonna like this. And it wasn't like it got like double the likes. It literally just got 10 times the likes of anything else we had ever had in our story. And it was amazing. I was very grateful for it, because it was a huge wake-up call to us that, one, if you're just striving for perfection, you're never gonna quite get there. But the only thing that you can perfectly achieve is just being yourself, sharing your story, because that's the only thing that makes you and your page, your brand, your social media perfectly unique, is you and your story. And so, yeah, that was the huge left turn for us in how we shared our story. And from that point on, it just all became about our family story. So even now, when people would say like, well, what's your page about? We'd tell them, the facade of it is this travel and this adventure. A lot of people see it, feels exciting, they come into the door, but then once they get to know our page, our content, and our family, they realize it's just a family trying to share our values and our story. That's what it's about. For us, it's about family.
So a little bit of just kind of background of the last, this is crazy to look back and see 10 years of where we were here, taking pretty photos, to where we are today, and how much our brand and family and everything has just evolved over time. Early on, we had incredible partnerships, and I call it this golden era of social media, where we just had such great opportunities to do some incredible projects. One of them was my favorite. One of our favorites is this top middle photo at Disney World. We did a project with Walt Disney World called 30 Stays in 30 Days, where Walt Disney World asked us to come and stay at the Walt Disney World resorts for 30 days straight. If you ever need any Walt Disney World advice, I have been and stayed at every single Walt Disney World property.
There's 30 resorts, and so they wanted us to go from resort to resort for 30 days straight. They took really good care of us. The way that they did it is we would go to sleep at one resort. The next morning, there would be a magical knock on the door with a piece of luggage, and when we'd open it, there would be clues leading us to the next resort. And then they would move all of our stuff for us. And Disney's done a good job that each resort was tied to a specific ride. So if we were staying at like the Little Mermaid themed resort, that day we would get to go ride on the ride. And they would always film it before park hours. So we were always going in like ushered the back way, get to see the park before it opened. And for us, I mean, we were still very new into the world of social media. So this was just a huge win for us to get to work with a company that we held dear to ourselves.
Well, and kudos to Disney for seeing some potential in us, and then as the project started and evolved, they changed it on the way. I think a lot of times brands come in with a very narrow focus, and if that's not the way things are going, then they shifted, and they ended up, Walt Disney World never does this anymore, by the way. They post it on their stories. If you see Walt Disney World with one of the biggest Instagram accounts in the entire world, they don't use it. But for 1 month, they posted Instagram stories every single day. And it was just one of the most incredible projects that they've ever done. They had great results, and obviously we had a wonderful experience. But it was one of our favorite opportunities to work with a brand who just did an amazing job.
And so I would say if you're here attending and you're part of a brand or you're part of a company, I just want you to know that you have the power to just make young creators, whether their account is big or small, you have it within you and your brand and your company to just make their dream come true. You know, it's like a young boy who just someday wants to be a sponsored athlete by Nike. You know, here we are at this amazing show, and there's just so many travelers out there that are creating content, and their dream is to work with brands that they believe in, they share similar values, and to, you know, feature you around the world. So if you can find that creator, you know, that you share similar vision and brand and values with, and then it's like Jessica said, our number one advice always is don't find somebody and then tell them what to say. Instead, find somebody who already connects with your brand and already aligns, and then they're the creator, and just fuel them and give them the freedom to create the way they want to, and they will do amazing things for your company and your brand.
Down the road, we ended up being really picky about some of the products that we used, and we ended up creating our own line. Garrett went to college. He didn't finish college. He's very proud of that. Went to college to study product design. So when the time finally came to be able to create his own backpacks, he was so excited and drew just the most, I mean, literally I've seen his sketches of these great backpacks that are like canvas, leather, just so, so beautiful. It looks like we're always, anytime we get on an airplane, people are like, are you going on safari? It's kind of what we look like.
And that's why, honestly, to be here at the Travel Goods Show, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I love to see all the new products and designs, what all my favorite brands are coming out with soon. I'm super grateful to be here. And as soon as this is finished, I'm going up and down every single aisleway, seeing all the amazing products.
If there's one thing that I am most proud of, what we've accomplished over the last 10 years, it's an amazing community. There's a lot of creators out there, but there's not a ton that have community. So any brand that I see that has a loyal following, it says so much more about them. We created what's called Bucketlist Friends. It's a monthly subscription where once a month we create unique content for them. We have a great brand deal, a travel deal, and that's been one of the most beneficial things for us as a business, but also just building this community that honestly, over the next 15 years, they are the people who I hope we can give back to and continue to like grow with over a long time from now.
I think it's good. I think it's important that she said brands that have a loyal following, not a large following. There's a very big difference. And I think kind of the temptation and the poison of social media is you just want that number of followers or subscribers to be as big as possible. And I promise you that is not the goal. That is not as important as having a strong loyal following, a loyal audience, true advocates and ambassadors of your brand. Anytime we kind of consult or give advice to young brands or companies that are wanting to do work on social media, we always tell them, when you're small, you need to embrace that, because you can only be like a small, cool club for so long, where if you have 10 followers, just act like that is the cool club. There's only 10 of you, but guess what? At that size, you can respond to each of their messages and respond to each of their comments, and it doesn't last forever. And so you need to embrace, however small your company, brand, social media is, you need to embrace that time, and the better you do embrace while you're small, as it inevitably gets bigger and bigger, you'll be able to maintain that vibe of closeness, community, and loyalty with your customers.
I'm going to skip that. One of my absolute favorite experiences was, like Garrett said, we came to a trade show just like this. We came to Outdoor Retailer. We worked with these brands. We started reaching out to hotels when like we said, influencing wasn't a thing, and a lot of them took a gamble on us, and they hosted some random family from America, or they let us, give us a couple free pairs of shoes, and then was it 7 years later, I was able to work on a book with National Geographic, and I emailed all of them and said, you're featured in this book. And it was such a beautiful thing to be able to give back to them when they took a chance on us so many years ago, when influencing wasn't a thing, when it was kind of a gamble to work with these random people. But honestly, that was one of the most beautiful experiences, and to give back to these properties and brands that believed in us when we were nobodies.
On that trip to Thailand, I remember there was a really fun, cool experience where every time we would go to a new country, we would first reach out to the tourism board, some airlines, and a handful of hotels, asking if they wanted to work with us on social media.
I feel like I'd send like 50 emails and maybe get 3 or 4 responses, and hopefully 1 yes.
And especially Thailand, this resort said, yeah, we would love to do this. We don't really understand what you're talking about, but let's go for it. And so we arrived to this very beautiful resort in Thailand, and we meet with the owner.
The head of marketing.
Okay. And they said, we would love to do all of this. You can't tag us because we don't have an Instagram page. We couldn't figure out how to set one up, but if you help us set it up, then you can tag us.
So I spent the next 2 hours helping them create their first Instagram account. And then, like I said, years later, when I wrote an itinerary for Thailand, I said, go to Krabi, stay at this place. And it was such a beautiful way for them to take a risk on me 10 years ago and then give back with this book.
That makes me so happy to remember that. Okay, so what is next for the Bucketlist family, and how are we doing our best to stay relevant in this ever-changing social media world?
Putting your kids out on social media, again, 10 years ago, it was just natural for us. It's always been, first and foremost, a family journal. And now it's a little trickier with having your kids on the internet and your kids working, and you guys can ask them their experiences with it. But a couple years ago, we had the thought, what if we slowly fade off into the sunset and we bring out the Bucketlist cartoon? So we've been working the last few years. We have a children's book coming out in October with National Geographic that is the Bucketlist family. It's about our story, and we're so excited to be able to continue and share our message and our story, but through a little different avenue.
And that's how I would explain this chapter of our family journey now, is we feel very grateful for the experiences that we've been able to enjoy. And from here on out, we're just doing our best to empower other families, inspire other families. And so step 1, we're creating this cartoon to hopefully inspire young people and families to get out and have their own adventures. We created an app called the Bucketlist app, where we can empower people to create their bucket lists and plan those trips. And then
you should check that out. And that's very soon going to be our community hub. Like I said, we have an incredible community that are just wonderful, wonderful people who care about service and travel and adventure and family. And they're all going to live in this community together.
Are you going to show the third and final ingredient of the next chapter for us?
Okay, so this is the first time we're sharing it with you 40, 50 lovely folks right here, which we're so excited about it. We haven't announced this.
Okay. We are creating something called the Bucketlist Collection. We want to inspire families to get out and have more adventures together. We want to empower these families to go have these bucket list experiences. And now the final stage for us is creating the bucket list collection and giving people the destinations around the world where they can go and have the most incredible bucket list experiences.
So we're taking some of that money from that acquisition so many years ago, and we're going to spend it finally. And we have started to purchase a couple properties, one of which is in Tonga, where we first started our very first adventure. And one is this here pictured tiny little private island in Vava'u, Tonga.
So if you want a small reason to go to Tonga, it's this very small island that we own, and we hope you will come and visit. And then if you want a very big reason to go to Tonga, is because surrounding this small island is the humpback whales. They migrate to this specific area around this specific island to have their babies. And I'm telling you, of all of the almost 100 countries we've traveled to, incredible experiences. I mean, this was one of our first ever destinations, first ever bucket list experiences, and maybe that's why it's just imprinted on my heart. But I'm telling you, nothing has changed my life like getting into the water with a giant humpback whale and realizing I'm a small human. This world is a big, magnificent place, and this whale is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And that led us to what a family motto of, you don't care about what you don't know about. And that's why we've been so grateful to be able to show our kids this world, because the more we can show them wildlife, this planet, and different cultures, we've been able to see how much they care about each of those things grow within their hearts. And for us as parents, that's meant everything. So we hope you will come and visit our small island, the first destination of the bucket list collection.
So just to sum up, if we were to write this down, we were talking about this last night. Your strategy can change with the times. I feel like our strategy has changed, has come so far from trying to take those picture-perfect little Instagram photos 10 years ago to now, hopefully getting people to come to some of our properties around the world and make their own family memories. Your strategy can change with times, but your values and your messages should be timeless.
So that's the homework for you, is think about whether it's for yourself or for your company. What does that mean to you? What is the value? What are the things that matter the most to you? And forever hold true to that. So thank you, everyone.
We're going to invite our kids to come up on stage. If you guys have any questions for us or for these three.
Yeah, it can be a question for the whole family, or maybe you have a question for anyone specific. Guys, come on, sit
This is Manila. How old are you?
10.
What's your favorite country?
The Maldives.
Okay, have a seat. Right here. Right here. Okay. What's your name, ma'am?
Dorothy.
How old are you?
12.
And what's your favorite country?
Japan.
Okay. What's your name?
Callie.
How old are you?
7.
And what's your favorite country?
Australia.
All right. Welcome, family. All right. Anyone have any questions for either the full family or perhaps an individual member of the family?
We have mics here and over there. Raise a hand. We've got a hand in the middle. Hi. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kelly, and I'm from Sydney, Australia, so I was pleased to hear that. I'm wondering what your team looks like in the background. We see you guys at the front, but who do you have working behind the scenes? What does that team look like, and what do they do?
So now we've kind of created a couple different companies. The Bucketlist family, which is us and our social media, it's Garrett and I. And it's always been Garrett and I. We're a little bit of control freaks, and we have one gal who's so supportive and helps sometimes with flights and sometimes working with like brand deals and stuff. But then we have the Bucketlist Studios, which is that cartoon that you saw, and there's 8 people on that team doing some merch and creating the app and then working on the cartoon. And then now hopefully a very big growing team as we purchase some of these properties and grow into that space.
When we first got started traveling, we actually left thinking we wanted like a videographer to follow us and a nanny to help us with the kids. And it was about 1 month, just like 2 countries into our travels, that we realized we're not achieving our goal. Yeah, they might help us like feel more like a business and creating the social media, but that wasn't our goal from the beginning. It was a family experience, a family adventure. And with them helping us, it kind of took that away. And so that's when we parted ways with them, and it just started only us, with me doing everything creative, Jessica doing all like operations and logistics. And that's when it felt much more of a family adventure, and we love that. So we've tried to keep things small all along the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Hi, my name is Sia.
Where are you from?
I'm from Canada, but me and my family now live in Costa Rica. We built a house up in the jungle.
Oh, amazing.
I have a question for the kids, because I could see you 3 being such good friends with my daughter, running around the jungle having fun. And we take her around the world, and we travel, and we make content and stuff. So I want to know, for you guys, like, there's a lot of kids that don't get to travel. And why do you think it's important for kids to travel the world?
I learn a lot by traveling, and I also think it's a good way to make memories. To try new foods.
Yeah.
I think it's important to travel so you know what each person from a different place, what they're like experiencing.
Love that. Thank you, guys.
And here are the friends.
Get feedback.
Oh, what part of Australia? Okay, from Noosa, Australia. Okay.
The question
Can you
was,
repeat that?
Yeah, the question was, how do we decide where we're going? When we first started, Garrett and I both kind of had very short bucket lists. I wanted to go to Australia. Garrett wanted to go to Tonga. And I wanted to see the Lantern Festival in Thailand. So we kind of made a short South Pacific tour for about 4 or 5 months, and that's where we started. Nowadays, and then I think for a while it became, this is where opportunities arise, where we get invited, or tourism boards will ask us. And now our kids are at such a fun stage where now we're asking, like, where do you want to go? And then we had spring break last week, and I was like, where do you want to go? And they said, we want to stay home. So we stayed home. So it's a little bit of everything. But this summer's going to be fun because I asked them, where do you guys want to go? And Manila wants to go to the Maldives. And we're going to try to make that happen. So now it's shifting towards, like, where do the kids want to go?
I want to ask the kids where they want to go that they have not been yet. Okay, so where do you want to go that we haven't been yet?
The Philippines. San Diego.
Going to San Diego tomorrow, buddy. Be great.
Egypt.
Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Elaine. Nice to meet you guys. I was wondering, do you guys have like a place that you guys like stay, or do you guys like are always on the road? Like, where's like home base for you guys?
When we left home, when we did the yard sale and we left home back in 2015, for about a little over 3 years, we were just vagabond style, no home base, and just going from country to country. And during those 3 years, I think we traveled to about 50 countries. And then it was about that time that Dorothy was becoming kindergarten, first grade age, and we asked her what she wanted to do next, and she would say things like, I want to be a part of a school. She said, I want a locker, I want a desk with my name on it. You know, you have kids that are in school and all they want to do is get out. Our kids, that's all they wanted to experience was like the school that they would see on TV. So that's when we started looking for a place to call at least home base and continue to travel. And we ended up settling down in Hawaii. So now Hawaii is home base for us. And then when we travel in between school breaks and such.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the audience? I have a question for you before I come back up there. You speak to this process of growth and evolution for any successful business. And so the strategy can change and the way that the business looks can change, but the values should remain front and center. Are there any brands that you really admire that you think are doing a good job of that? Whether they're partners, it could be a Nat Geo, it could be a Pelican. Anybody you can think of?
I'll say we've been very picky about the brands that we work with, and so anytime, if you were to see our social media and you see us working with National Geographic or Land Rover, it's because those brands did align with our values, and it's been fun to get to see the inside of those companies and the measures they have taken to forever, hold true to their brand guidelines and the things that they think are most important.
Give a big, big round of applause to the Bucketlist family, please.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.